Her daughter had just sent a selfie from the camping trip with her grandparents. But the moment her mother zoomed in on the picture, her blood ran cold. Lydia Heron sat in her study. Sunlight dripping weakly through the blinds, stripes of gold. Cutting across her desk, the spreadsheet glowing on her laptop screen was supposed to hold her attention. It was the kind of project that could make or break her. Long-awaited promotion, yet no matter how hard she tried, her mind kept scattering, like dry leaves in the wind, with a frustrated sigh. She pressed her palms into her tired eyes and shifted for what felt like the 100th time. Nothing worked. Silence in the house pressed down on her like a weight. Normally, her 5-year-old daughter Hazel would be filling every corner with chatter, dragging her mother outside to push her on the swing. But now Hazel was awakened, camping with her grandparents. The quiet felt wrong. Lydia drifted down the hallway, her steps muffled against the carpet, until she reached the master bathroom. She opened the cabinet above the sink, her hand hovering, trembling, toward the orange prescription bottle hidden behind the mouthwash. Just as her fingers grazed the plastic, a low voice made her flinch. "Lydia, don't." Nick stood in the doorway, his expression caught between disappointment and worry. His dark hair was rumpled, his jaw tight. The familiar look he wore whenever he'd been wrestling with unease. "I know what you're thinking," he said quietly, stepping into the light. "But you promised. For months, clean." Her hand quivered in the air. "I can't focus, Nick. The report's due tomorrow, and I haven't written a single line that makes sense." Her voice cracked, raw with exhaustion. "Just one pill. To help me think." Nick gently lowered her hand, his touch steady and grounding. "If you take one now, you'll take another tomorrow, and another after that. Then all those therapy sessions, all that progressit'll mean nothing." The truth in his voice stung. Lydia closed the cabinet, catching her reflection in the mirror, eyes ringed with fatigue, lips pressed thin with strain. "You're right, I just... Words failed her. Nick guided her out of the bathroom, back to the edge of their bed. "It's Hazel, isn't it? That's what's eating at you." Lydia nodded, cheeks hot with embarrassment at how easily he'd read her. This is the longest she's ever been away. 2 nights was hard enough, but 3? And we've barely heard from them. 1 quick call yesterday, and that's it. "Mom and Dad have taken her camping before," Nick reminded her, his tone calm but unyielding. "They've been doing this for decades. Half the country in that camper van, not with a 5-year-old, Lydia shot back. "Your parents aren't young anymore, Nick. What if Hazel wanders off while they're asleep? What if what?" "If we trust them," Nick cut in, the corners of his mouth lifting just slightly. His hands found her shoulders, kneading the tension that had knotted there. "They raised 3 kids of their own without losing any of us. Hazel will be fine," she exhaled, still restless, but loosening under his touch. He was right. June and Charles adored Hazel. They would never let harm come near her. Still, the unease coiled tight in her chest refused to unravel. "You know," Nick murmured, his tone dipping playful as he leaned closer, "if you finish this project early, we'll actually have the house to ourselves. Think about it, when's the last time that happened?" Despite everything, Lydia smiled faintly. "You make a convincing case." She straightened, the pills forgotten. She had promises to keep, not just to Nick and her therapist, but to herself. For months was already a hard-earned victory. She wasn't going to break it now. Together, they left the bathroom behind. Back in the bedroom, Lydia's phone buzzed. She reached for it, heart skipping when she saw June's name. "It's from your mom," she told Nick, tapping open the chat. A grainy selfie appeared on the screen, Hazel grinning in the frame. June's arm wrapped around her, but the image was blurred, distorted, as if someone had jostled the phone mid-click. Beneath it, a string of jumbled letters, nonsense, something else. Lydia's chuckle caught in her throat. She leaned closer, eyes narrowing at the screen, then froze. Hazel had clearly gotten hold of June's phone. "Look at this," Lydia said, showing Nick the screen. "She's learning how to take selfies now." Nick leaned over, chuckling. "Kids these days, 5 years old and already knows more about phones than my parents." The photo was blurry, but Hazel's bright grin shone through, her blonde curls wild and untamed around her cherubic face. Behind her, Lydia could just make out a scatter of tents and the faint outline of the camper van. Hazel looked happy, safe, and for a fleeting moment. Lydia's chest loosened. She was about to call back when another photo came through. This one was sharper. Hazel, tongue out in mischief. June and Charles seated by the campfire, the van parked behind them, all normal, except for one detail. Someone else was in the shot. A man. Lydia's smile faltered. She zoomed in slowly. The man's face was partially shadowed, but something about him tugged at her memory. Not a stranger. Familiar? Too familiar. Her pulse began to drum. "Nick," she called, her voice taut. "Come here now." From the living room, Nick's distracted voice floated back. "What is it?" "Just come," he returned, a tablet in hand, and Lydia shoved the phone at him. "Do you see it?"
That man. Yeah, Nick squinted, zoomed in.
"Looks like some random camper. It's probably another family nearby." "No," Lydia whispered, snatching the phone back, her hands trembling. She zoomed closer, her stomach twisting. "Look again. It's Caleb." Nick blinked. "Caleb? Or ex-husband?" His voice carried disbelief. "No way. Caleb was clean-cut, dark hair. This guy's lighter, scruffier." But Lydia knew better. The beard, the longer hair, it didn't matter. She could never forget those eyes, that jawline. "It's him," she murmured. Her thumb flicked to the calendar on her phone. 5 years. It's been 5 years. Nick's face softened. He didn't need her to explain. 5 years since Caleb had been sent to prison for drugs, for violence. For nearly killing her when she was 8 months pregnant with Hazel. The memory slammed into her like ice water. The weight of his hands on her throat, the darkness edging her vision, something she'd buried deep but never escaped. "If that really is Caleb," she whispered, her voice shaking, "he's out, and no one told me. They should have notified me." Her chest tightened, panic clawing higher. She dialed June, no answer. Charles, silence. Her body moved before her mind caught up. She snatched her purse, her words sharp and urgent. "We're going now." Nick hesitated. "Lydia, are you sure?" "Let's go," she snapped. Louder this time, fear sharpening. "Into resolve." That did it. Nick bolted downstairs to start the car while Lydia scrambled for her essentials. But before she followed him, her eyes flicked toward the bathroom, toward the cabinet, the pills. Her hand hovered. Torn then, in a sudden rush, she grabbed the bottle, shoving it deep into her purse. A guilty, heavy weight. "Lydia, come on." Nick's voice echoed from outside. She sprinted down to the car, sliding into the passenger seat. The bottle pressed against her side like a secret she didn't dare admit. "Trinity Pines is an hour away," Nick said grimly, pulling out of the driveway. "Try calling them again." Lydia clutched her phone, her knuckles white. Every mile down that highway only fueled the dread pooling in her gut. Caleb at the campsite with Hazel. Nothing about that could end well. Asterisk Trinity Pines was supposed to be a serene escape. Blue Ridge Mountains, tall pines, winding trails. Lydia knew the place well. She and Nick had taken Hazel there before, and June and Charles had mentioned they'd stay 2 nights before moving on. But now, thought of Hazel in those woods with Caleb made Lydia's skin crawl. "I still don't get it," Nick muttered as he drove. "What do you even know them? Your parents don't know Caleb? They barely know what's happening in town half the time?" "Maybe it's just someone who looks like him," Lydia said weakly, though the words rang hollow. In her gut, she knew. It was him. Silence thickened the car as Lydia's mind spiraled back to that night pregnant. Helpless, Caleb's rage exploding as his hands closed around her throat. The neighbors had saved her then, but who would save Hazel now? "Look," Nick said suddenly, his voice tight. Ahead. Red and blue lights flashed through the trees. "Police." Double quotes. "Oh God," Lydia whispered. Clutching the dashboard as Nick pushed harder on the accelerator, they tore into the campground, gravel spitting beneath the tires. The parking lot was swarming uniformed officers, rangers, voices urgent in the crisp mountain air. The campsite that was supposed to be a haven now buzzed with alarm. Another police cruiser rolled into the campground, its flashing lights scattering against the trees. Uniformed officers moved between tents, questioning startled campers. Lydia's gaze darted frantically across the site until it landed on the familiar blue and white camper van parked near a stand of pines. There Nick pointed, relief and dread mingling in his voice. And there's Dad. June and Charles were seated at a picnic table, speaking to a detective who scribbled in a notepad. Charles held an ice pack against his temple, his face bruised. June sat pale and shaken, her hands trembling as she clutched her husband's arm. Asterisk as Lydia and Nick drew closer. Charles's voice carried, unsteady. He called himself Collins. Friendly with us, especially Hazel. Last night we even shared a barbecue, June added weakly. He brought a woman, said her name was Maya, his sister. Elegant, charming. They both seemed so good with children. Charles nodded. Since yesterday, they played with Hazel, kept her busy with stories and drawings. During the barbecue, he told her fairy tales. Cooked dinner. Hazel ate every bite, he thought. We thought they were decent people, detective lifted his head. And this morning, Charles lowered the ice pack, revealing a swollen bruise. After breakfast, they said they had to leave. Hazel begged for one more game. They promised it would just be a short walk, picking flowers like... Yesterday, June's voice broke. I was inside, tidying Hazel's things. Charles was outside, reading. I didn't notice at first, Charles said, his voice heavy with guilt. By the time I looked up, they had her in their vehicle. Ira and I got to the driver's side before they could pull away. Collins got out. Charles touched the bruise at his temple, his voice faltering. He hit me. Over and over, I couldn't stop him. June reached for her husband's hand, her own trembling. I called the police right away, but they've been gone over an hour. Detective Rollins spoke gravely. Child abductors try to put distance between themselves and the scene as fast as possible. We've issued an alert for the camper van, but without plates it'll be harder. Do you have any photos of him? Nick asked quickly. June shook her head, shame flickering in her eyes. We don't take many pictures when we camp. It's just not our habit. Lydia's heart lurched. Her hand flew to her mouth. Selfie, she whispered. Hazel sent us a selfie from your phone. He was in the background. She fumbled through her phone, pulling up the clearer photo, and handed it to Rollins. I think that man is my ex-husband. Caleb Winters. The detective studied it intently. Why would you think your ex-husband would abduct your daughter? Lydia inhaled sharply, feeling the weight of every gaze on her. Because Caleb went to prison 5 years ago for drugs and for beating me. I was 35 weeks pregnant with Hazel when he nearly killed me, if the police hadn't come. When they did, her throat tightened. She forced her shaking fingers to pull up an old photo of Caleb from social media. This was him before. Looks different now, longer hair. Heavier, but I know it's him. Rollins compared the images, his expression grim. There are similarities. Hard to be certain, but if this is Caleb, it would explain the motive. Biological connection. He'd see Hazel as his. Before Lydia could reply, another officer approached Rollins, speaking quietly before addressing them all. Several campers reported a van matching the description leaving toward town. Not up the mountain like we assumed. Before Lydia could process this, her phone buzzed violently in her hand. An unknown number flashed on the screen. She almost dismissed it, probably spammed it, when it rang again instantly. Something in her gut froze. Excuse me, she whispered, stepping away into the shadows of the pines. Her hand trembled as she answered. Hello. A familiar voice slithered through the line, sending ice down her spine. Keep your voice down. Listen carefully. Her breath caught. Caleb in the background came the sound that shattered her. Composer Hazel's bright little voice, chattering happily. Caleb. Lydia's grip tightened on the phone, her other hand balling into a fist. What have you done? Where is she? She's fine, he replied smoothly, too calmly. She's having the time of her life, actually. Aren't you, sweetheart? His voice shifted, speaking away from the phone. Lydia heard Hazel's cheerful reply. her daughter's innocent laughter slicing through her like a blade, her vision blurred with panic. "Caleb, please," Lydia whispered, her voice trembling. "Don't do this. She doesn't even know you."
Yep.
"The problem, isn't it?" Caleb's tone sharpened like broken glass. "My own daughter has no idea who I am. 5 years of her life stolen from me. Time I'll never get back. You have no right." "I have every right." His retort was ice cold, final. "I'm her father by blood. Now listen carefully. I didn't take Hazel to hurt her. I'd never do that. I just want to talk, you and me. We have unfinished business." Lydia's gaze flicked toward the huddle of relatives clustered around. "Detective Rollins!" Nick was watching her, worry etched deep in his face. "Why should I believe you?" she hissed. "You kidnapped my daughter. You knew she'd be here with my in-laws. You planned this." Caleb's silence hung heavy, then his voice dropped into something lethal. "If you don't come alone, if you breathe a word of this call to the cops or to that husband of yours, I'll make sure the world knows exactly what kind of mother you really are." Every filthy detail, a chill shot down her spine. Her grip tightened on the phone. "What are you talking about?" "Can't. Threaten me. The police won't believe you." Caleb's laugh was low and cruel. "Won't they? You've forgotten, haven't you? Cheating on me with Nick while you were pregnant. The drugs. The bottles you drained even while carrying Hazel. Or the money you stole from your own company to keep feeding the habit." Lydia's knees buckled. She pressed herself against a tree trunk, keeping her back to the others so they wouldn't see her falter. "That's all in the past," she forced out, her voice cracking. "Nick and I got help. We've been clean for 4 months." 4 months. Caleb mocked her with a slow clap of words. "Bravo. But embezzling company funds? Firing 3 innocent people to cover your tracks? Its stain doesn't wash." "Away, Lydia." Her chest tightened with shame. Panic clawed at her throat. "What do you want from me?" "I told you," Caleb said. "A meeting. Sunshine Cafe in Okerjay, my sister's place. You know it? Come alone. And bring Hazel's documents, birth certificate, medical records. Everything." Suspicion flickered through her fear. "Why her documents? You'll understand when you get here." His voice turned flat, almost bored. "Don't make me wait. Don't call back. And don't get clever. Remember what's at stake." The line went dead. Lydia's thumb jabbed at redial, but the number was already disconnected. She stood frozen, staring at her phone as her mind spun in desperate circles. If she told the police, Caleb would expose her past. The embezzlement was over 5 years ago, but still within the statute of limitations. She could lose everything: her job, her freedom, her daughter. But if she went alone, she could be walking straight into his trap. Forcing a breath, she tucked the phone away and returned to the group, heart pounding. Nick immediately stepped to her side. "Who was that? You were gone a while." Her throat closed around the truth. "It was the office," she lied, eyes darting away. "They're on me about that report I didn't send. They're furious." Nick frowned, suspicion clouding his face, but he didn't push. Around them, police were stringing yellow tape, officers fanning out in grim formation. Detective Rollins approached, grave-eyed. "We've issued an Amber Alert for Hazel. Roadblocks are up. Best thing you can do now is go home and rest. We'll update you as soon as we know more." Lydia nodded, though her mind was already elsewhere planning. Her escape. "I'm taking my parents to the hospital," Nick said gently, wrapping an arm around her. "Dad needs that head checked. They're both shaken up." Charles and June were being guided into an ambulance, Charles still holding an ice pack against the bloodied welt on his temple. "I'll drive the camper back," Nick added. "What about you?" Lydia saw her opening. "I should go home. I finish some work things. The office is already on edge." Nick stared at her now. "With all this going on, do you even tell them about Hazel?" "It's just a small project I need to wrap up," Lydia pressed, forcing conviction into her words. "The promotion still matters. I'll meet you at the hospital in a few hours." He hesitated, searching her face.
Finally sighed.
And nodded. "All right, if you're sure." They parted ways, Nick, trailing the ambulance, Lydia slipping into her car, and there alone, the mask shattered. She clutched the steering wheel so hard, her knuckles whitened. Her body shook with a storm of fear and grief. Hot tears blurred her vision as she slammed the wheel with both fists. Asterisk, why now? She sobbed into the hollow silence of the car. Why is this happening now? Her eyes drifted to her purse. The bottle of pills peeked out, whispering promises of numbness. Of release, hands trembling, she pulled it free, twisting off the cap. One white tablet slid into her palm. She stared at it, torn between desperate longing and bitter self-loathing. For months clean. A promise to Nick, a promise to herself. And now, everything hung in the balance. But this was different, wasn't it? This was an emergency. Hazel's safety depended on her, and Lydia's spiraling panic was clouding every rational thought. Couldn't afford that. Not now. Her hand trembled as she stared at the pill in her palm, the weight of the decision pressing on her. Breaking it cleanly in half, she convinced herself the smaller dose was harmless, just enough to quiet the chaos. In her head, not enough to dull her reflexes. With a dry swallow, she forced the half down. Minutes ticked by. Slowly, her heartbeat steadied, her breathing leveled, and a thin layer of calm wrapped around her frayed nerves. The suffocating panic gave way to clarity, sharpened into a single, unshakable focus. Hazel, asterisk with hands that no longer shook. Lydia started the car and peeled out of the Trinity Pines lot. The mountain roads blurred past as her speed crept higher and higher, the twisting curves devoured by her desperate urgency. What should have taken an hour she conquered in 40 minutes, the rush of adrenaline drowning out reason. Asterisk the house greeted her with silence, a silence that felt wrong, heavy. She moved quickly, heading straight for the master bedroom. Her fingers slipped against the lockbox dial, failing twice before it finally clicked open. Asterisk. Inside lay the most vital fragments of their lives: passports, social security cards, insurance files. And there Hazel's papers, birth certificate, medical history, immunization records, proof of her existence, proof of her belonging. Lydia's throat tightened as she gathered the documents into a manila folder. The questions clawed at her as she worked. Why did Caleb want these? Was he planning to vanish with Hazel across state lines, across the border? Her jaw tightened. No, I won't. Let him. A glance at the clock spurred her forward. Oak Ridge, 30 minutes away, in the opposite direction. She drew a long breath, clutching the folder like a lifeline, and headed back to the car. The Sunshine Cafe came into view with its cheery yellow awning, a facade that clashed violently. With the storm brewing in her chest, next to it, the playground buzzed with children's laughter. Lydia's eyes locked on the one face she prayed to see as all. There she was, in the sandbox, carefree, smiling. Relief hit Lydia like a wavenly. To shatter in an instant, a woman with sleek dark hair and an air of effortless wealth Maya had spotted her. With practiced swiftness, she swept Hazel toward the indoor play area, her movements too precise, too purposeful, like she had been waiting for Lydia to appear. At least she's safe, Lydia whispered, forcing herself to breathe. The folder stayed behind in the car. She would not hand over a single paper until there was no other choice. Crossing the street, she was intercepted. My yacht arc glasses polished, radiating control. The resemblance to Caleb in the sharp set of her jaw was undeniable. Maya. Lydia greeted, her tone ice. He's waiting inside, Maya said smoothly. Gesturing toward a private room, the cafe was calm, almost deceptively so, a handful of customers scattered about. But inside the secluded party room, time seemed to still. Caleb sat waiting. He looked different, refined. Prison had carved lean lines into his frame, left him with a neat beard, hair grown back in light brown waves. But the charm in his voice was unchanged, almost venomous. Lydia, he said, with a smile that barely reached his eyes. It's been a long time. Fragile calm from the pill was already slipping. Anxiety slithered back as Lydia's gaze burned into his. Where's Hazel? She demanded, skipping any niceties. She's perfectly fine, Caleb replied smoothly. You saw her yourself. Maya will keep her busy while we talk. What do you want? Lydia asked, sitting but keeping her body taut. Ready? Caleb leaned forward, voice lowering to a calculated pitch. An arrangement. Simple. You tell Hazel the truth. I'm her father. She comes to live with me. That's insane, Lydia snapped. You think you can vanish for 5 years, walk back in supervised visits? Caleb cut in smoothly, his tone rehearsed. Once a week. You get to keep your little life with Nick, the man you betrayed me with, and I get my daughter. That's fair. Her blood ran cold. And if I refuse? The smirk on his lips told her the answer before he spoke. Then I tell the police everything. The drugs while you were pregnant, the embezzlement from your company, you lose Hazel anyway, and prison takes the rest. Lydia's fury surged, threatening to break through her fragile composure. You did those things too, Caleb. You drank. You never tried to stop me. We're both a disaster, both unfit. But Hazel, her voice trembled, steel laced with desperation. Hazel deserves better than you. The difference, Caleb said evenly, his calm voice sharper than any scream, is that I never stole thousands from my company. And I never cheated on you. Lydia's bravado collapsed, her anger bleeding into desperation. Please, Caleb, I don't. Do drugs anymore? I went through therapy. I'm on medication. Prescribed medication. I haven't touched a pill in 4 months. Caleb arched an eyebrow, his stare cutting her down. For months? Out of 5 years? You expect me to believe? You were sober while raising our baby? The medication was prescribed. Lydia shot back, her voice trembling. My therapist said it was safe. I only took it at night, after Hazel was asleep. And when I was breastfeeding, I always dumped the milk afterward. A flicker of pride crossed Caleb's face. In prison, I got real therapy. Been clean for 3 years. If anyone deserves her, Lydia hates me. He leaned back, his eyes dark with triumph. But that's not the point. Here's what's happening tonight. Hazel stays with me. Tomorrow, you tell her the truth. I really am. And you don't come to pick her up? Saturdays only. It's all you'll get. Lydia's chest tightened. And if I don't agree? She asked, though her gut already knew the answer. Caleb's tone turned lethal in its simplicity. Then, I call the police. I tell them everything, every dirty secret of your past. Your choice, Lydia. Trapped, she swallowed her fury and gave a single reluctant nod. Fine, I'll tell her. Together they walked toward the playground where Hazel was bent over a sandcastle beside Maya. When Hazel looked up and spotted her, joy spread across her face like sunshine breaking clouds. Mommy, she squealed, sprinting to Lydia, and clinging to her legs, Lydia crouched, pressing her daughter close, breathing in the warm, familiar scent of her hair as if she could store it forever. Hi, sweetie. Having fun? Hazel nodded, her voice bubbling with excitement. Mr. Collins and Ms. Mayer took me camping. We saw deer and flowers and roasted marshmallows. Lydia's heart twisted. How could she shatter that innocence? Took a breath sharp enough to sting. Hazel, sweetheart, I need to tell you something important. This man isn't Mr. Collins. His name is Caleb. He's your father. Hazel's little brow furrowed. Dad. But Daddy Nick is my daddy. Yes, Lydia said softly, struggling to thread the truth without breaking her child. Nick is your daddy too. But Caleb is your first daddy, the one from when you were still in my tummy. Hazel blinked, processing with the clear logic. Only a child could. So I have 2 daddies. Yes, Lydia whispered, relief flooding her that Hazel wasn't crying. Hazel's gaze drifted to Caleb, a curiosity overtaking confusion. Do you have toys at your house? And a pool? Caleb crouched to her height, flashing a smile that made Lydia's stomach churn. I have both. Want to see them? Hazel's eyes lit up, but then she turned, her expression falling. But I want Mommy to come too. I'll miss her. The words splintered Lydia's heart. I can't tonight, baby. I have work. But you'll stay with Daddy, Caleb, and I'll see you tomorrow. Hazel's lip trembled. No, I want you, Mommy. Come too. Desperation clawed at Lydia. She forced a shaky smile. All right, sweetheart. I'll come with you to Caleb's house for a little while, but then I'll leave. okay? Hazel considered, then gave a reluctant nod. Perfect, Caleb said, standing. He leaned close to Lydia, his words a dagger in her ear. Don't forget her documents. Cooperate her. I'll have my lawyer tear you apart. Numb. Lydia nodded as Hazel slipped her small hand into Caleb's. She watched helplessly as her daughter climbed into his car, chattering about swimming and toys. Lydia's body moved mechanically toward her own vehicle. Her mind a storm of panic. The moment her car door shut, the mask broke. Sobs ripped through her as she slammed her fists against the steering wheel. How could I let this happen? How could I hand her over to him? The hopelessness was suffocating. Two impossible choices clawed at her. Surrender Hazel to Caleb and lose her forever, or go to the police and expose both herself and Nick risking prison and losing Hazel anyway. Either way, her daughter would grow up without her. Her thoughts spiraled. She gave Caleb the documents. He could twist it in court claims she willingly surrendered Hazel. With a lawyer, could vanish with her. Lock Lydia out forever. But if she confessed, Caleb could be arrested for kidnapping. Yet her own past would catch up, dragging her into a cell. What then? Where would Hazel go? Asterisk, her hands trembled as she reached into her purse, fingers closing around the pill bottle. She popped it open, staring at the lonely half-tablet inside, then shook out another, full and round. 1.5 doses. It's just enough to blur the pain. Just enough to think. She set them on her tongue, ready to swallow. Relief falls and fleeting brushed against her. Then disgust hit like a slap. Was this who she was? A woman who crumbled at the first crack? Who reached for chemicals instead? Of her child? A mother too weak to fight for her daughter without a crutch? No. The word rang sharp in the silence. She spat the pills into her palm, trembling. Not this time. Not again. With sudden clarity, Lydia shoved open the car door and stormed. To the nearest trash bin, hurling the pills inside. This time, she would fight. Lydia shoved her fingers down her throat, gagging until the bitter remnants of the pills surged back up. Her body convulsed, but she forced it out, every trace of weakness, every temptation clawing inside her. Between heaves, she whispered through clenched teeth, I have to deserve my daughter. I can't slip again. I can't lose her. It was done. She stumbled to her car, snatched up a half-empty water bottle, and rinsed the acrid taste from her mouth. Her head cleared, her pulse steadied, a new fire burned inside her. Hazel was worth every ounce of pain, and Caleb wasn't going to win. She started the engine and followed his car back to the house that once belonged to her past. Caleb's house sat like a monument to everything she had lost, larger than hers and Nick's. Its manicured lawn and glittering pool, a playground perfectly tailored to lure a 5-year-old. As Lydia pulled into the driveway, Hazel's laughter drifted from an open window, light and innocent, a sound that cut her heart in two. Caleb's car rested in the garage, door yawning open. Lydia remained in her seat for a long moment, gripping the envelope of Hazel's documents. It lay heavy on the passenger seat, a weapon she wouldn't surrender until the time was right. Taking a breath, she left it behind and stepped into the house. It was exactly as she remembered, though its updated decor couldn't erase the memories. This was the house where her darkest years had devoured her, where the weight of motherhood had driven her into drugs, drink, and ultimately ruin. The air itself seemed to hum with ghosts. Hazel's voice drew her down the hall. Lydia found her in what had once been a nursery, though Hazel had never lived here. Caleb had remade it into a perfect playroom, pastel walls. No, storybooks, a dollhouse half-assembled by his hands. Mommy, Hazel cried, rushing forward with a burst of joy. She clung to Lydia's waist, eyes sparkling. Look at all the toys. Caleb straightened, flashing a smile too smooth to be trusted. Maya went to pick up supplies for Hazel, he explained casually. Lydia nodded absently, her gaze snagging on a cabinet in the corner, piece of furniture that dragged her 5 years into the past. She saw herself there, broken, reeling, desperate, drunk, high, terrified of motherhood. That very cabinet had witnessed the worst decision of her life, the night she betrayed Caleb with Nick, as if savoring her shame. Caleb smirked. So, you remember? Lydia ignored him. Drawn by something she couldn't resist, she stepped closer. A framed photo rested atop the cabinet. Caleb and Maya, arms entwined, smiling in their youth. Dangling from its frame was a delicate heart-shaped bracelet. Her stomach knotted. She picked it up, opened the locket, and froze. Inside was a photo of Caleb and Maya, locked in an embrace that twisted her gut, an embrace no brother and sister should ever share. The truth crashed over her like a tidal wave. She hadn't betrayed Caleb on some reckless whim. She had discovered this bracelet years ago, seen this same forbidden truth, and run to Nick in despair. Drugs, alcohol, and trauma had blurred it all, but now it returned, sharp as glass. Rage hardened her. With shaking hands, she grabbed the bracelet and snatched up the documents. Caleb's voice cracked the silence. "What are you doing?" She didn't answer. She turned, stride unbroken, making for the door. Hazel's toys lay abandoned as Caleb lunged after her. Lydia burst into the driveway, fumbling for her phone, dialing Nick's number with trembling fingers. It went to voicemail. She spoke fast, urgent. "Nick, it's me. At Caleb's house with Hazel. There's something I need to tell you. We need help." "Bring the police," her plea cut short as Caleb ripped the phone from her hand, ending the call and hurling it aside. His mask slipped completely now, rage twisting his face. "What do you think you're doing?" he growled, towering over her. Lydia clutched the bracelet and papers tight. "Let go of me, Caleb." The backhand came without warning. His strike split her lip, dropping her hard onto the concrete. "Mommy." Hazel screamed from the doorway, paralyzed in terror. "Hazel, go inside!" Lydia cried, blood slick on her chin. "Go to your room, it's not safe." But Hazel didn't move. Her small frame trembled as she watched Caleb loom over her mother. His gaze darted to the bracelet in her hand, his expression darkening. "Where did you get that?" His voice was a dangerous whisper. Lydia staggered to her knees, spitting blood, glaring up at him. She raised the locket like a weapon. "You dare judge me? You cheated first, with your own sister? And now you think you can take my daughter? Never." Caleb's face twisted into a mask of rage. He tore the bracelet from Lydia's hand, with such violence that the chain snapped apart, scattering links across the floor. Lydia, desperate, swung the thick envelope of documents at his face, but the flimsy papers were no match for his brute strength. With a guttural snarl, Caleb's hand shot out, fingers locking around her throat, the same spot he had nearly crushed 5 years ago. "You know nothing," he spat, dragging her upright and shoving her inside as Hazel wailed helplessly on. The front step. He hurled Lydia into the bedroom, slamming the door and locking it with a sharp click. Gasping, clutching at her throat, she tried to rise, but Caleb loomed over her eyes, fever bright with fury. "You think you can threaten me?" he growled, crawling over her trembling frame. "You think you can take my daughter away from me again?" The room exploded into chaos as they fought, limbs tangled, breaths ragged, bodies crashing against the bed frame. Lydia's nails clawed deep into his arm as she twisted to break free. With a desperate kick, her foot smashed into his shin. Caleb cursed, staggering, but before she could bolt for the door, his grip clamped around her ankle and yanked her down. Her elbow slammed into the carpet with a sickening jolt of pain. Lydia cried out, rolling onto her back just as Caleb loomed above. His face flushed, breath ragged, eyes burning. Then from outside, a distant siren wailed low at first, then rising, growing closer. Caleb froze, his eyes narrowing. "You called the police?" he accused, his grip tightening around her throat. Lydia clawed at his hand, struggling for breath. "No," she gasped. "What?" "Nick, got my message." Caleb's roar shook the walls. He snatched up the old baseball bat, leaning against the bedside table, the relic of his college days. Raising it high, his eyes blazed with hate. "I hope you never live to see Hazel grow up," he snarled. The last thing Lydia saw was the bat swinging down, the searing hatred etched in Caleb's face. The steady beep of a heart monitor dragged. Lydia back from the abyss. Harsh fluorescent lights blinded her until her vision steadied, revealing the sterile white walls of a hospital room. Pain throbbed deep in her skull, sharp even through the haze of medication. Then the memories crashed. In the house, the struggle, Caleb's rage, a chill coursed through her. Hazel. Where was Hazel? A nurse entered, eyes widening at Lydia's consciousness. "You're awake," she said warmly, though her tone carried professional calm. "How are you feeling?" "My head," Lydia whispered, her throat dry and raw. "It hurts." "That's expected," the nurse replied, checking the monitors. "You sustained a serious concussion, but you're going to be okay." She scribbled notes on her clipboard. "Your husband and daughter are waiting to see you, and when you're ready. There are officers who'd like to speak with you." Relief broke over Lydia at the mention of Hazel. "My daughter, she's okay?" "She's safe," the nurse reassured gently. "A brave little girl from what I hear. Shall I send them in?" Lydia nodded, the motion sending a lance of pain through her skull. Moments later, Nick stepped inside, Hazel's tiny hand tucked in his. The girl immediately broke free and rushed to her mother's side, careful not to jostle the bed. "Mommy, you're awake!" Hazel cried, her face glowing with joy. "I was so scared when you wouldn't wake up." Lydia stroked her daughter's hair, her heart aching. "How long was I out?" she asked Nick. 3 hours, he answered, relief, battling with worry in his eyes. "How do you feel?" "Like I got hit with a baseball bat," she muttered, attempting a weak smile before her face turned serious. "What happened after I blacked out? How did you find us?" Nick pulled a chair close, lifting Hazel into his lap. "Never went with my parents to the hospital. I couldn't shake the feeling something was wrong after that call at the campground. And when I couldn't reach you, I panicked." He squeezed her hand. "But Hazel saved you. After Caleb attacked, she called 911, told them her mommy needed help." Lydia turned to her daughter, stunned. You called 911? Hazel nodded proudly, "Just like you taught me. Hey, I used the kitchen phone when the scary man hurt you. I don't want him to be my daddy. I love Nick." Tears blurred Lydia's vision. She pulled her daughter close, voice breaking. My love. And yes, one daddy is more than enough for us." Nick's face hardened as he continued. The police arrived just as Caleb and Maya tried to run with Hazel. They're both in custody now. A knock broke the moment. 2 officers stepped in, their presence firm yet respectful. "Mrs. Heron," one of them said, "we're relieved to see you awake. I'm Detective Wilson, and this is Officer Garcia. We'll need to ask you a few questions when you're ready." "We'd like to ask you a few questions about what happened today, if you're feeling up to it," Detective Wilson said gently. Lydia winced at the throbbing in her head but gave a cautious nod. "Of course," Wilson leaned forward, his voice measured but deliberate. "We were able to apprehend Caleb Miller and Maya Miller as they attempted to flee the house with your daughter. Both are now in custody, facing multiple charges: kidnapping, assault, and false imprisonment among them." A stunned silence filled the hospital room until Officer Garcia added, "We also recovered the camper van they used at the campsite. It was abandoned inside an empty warehouse, roughly 10 miles from Oak Ridge Town Center. Based on the tire tracks and the timeline, they arrived there about half an hour after leaving the campground with Hazel. That's where they must have switched vehicles," Lydia murmured, pieces sliding grimly into place. "Caleb always kept an Audi sedan in the garage. Probably ditched the camper to avoid being spotted, since you'd all be looking for it." Wilson nodded in agreement. "That matches what we suspect. We also recovered some of Hazel's belongings in the van: a stuffed rabbit, some drawings she made at camp." "Mr. Bunny," Hazel cried out from the bed, her eyes wide. "Thought I lost him." Officer Garcia smiled softly. "You'll get him back, sweetheart. We'll make sure of it." But the detective's attention had already shifted back to Lydia. His tone sharpened slightly. "Now, Mrs. Heron, your husband mentioned that Caleb Miller contacted you directly at the campsite. We'll need you to walk us through that conversation." Lydia's breath caught. She glanced at Nick, her chest tightening with guilt. Then she drew in a shaky breath. "Actually, there's something I need to tell you first. Something I should have said a long time ago." Nick's brow furrowed. "Lydia, what are you talking about?" Her voice trembled. Yet there was steel beneath it. "The reason I didn't go to the police the moment I saw Caleb's photo is because he was blackmailing me. He threatened that if I ever told anyone he'd expose something from my past. She turned to the detectives, her words falling heavy in the air. 5 years ago, before I married Nick, I stole money from the company I worked for, about $15,000. I used it to feed my drug addiction, to pay off debts I couldn't escape. I manipulated the books. People were fired because of innocent people. The room fell deathly quiet. Wilson scribbled in his notebook, his jaw tight. When Caleb went to prison for attacking me, Lydia continued, tears streaking her cheeks. He didn't tell the police about what I'd done. He said it was for Hazel's sake, so she wouldn't grow up with her mother in prison. But now, he's been using it against me, threatening to destroy everything if I didn't comply. Nick's face drained of color. Lydia, why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed, she whispered, broken, shamed and terrified of losing you, of losing Hazel. She turned back to the officers, her voice steadier now. I understand I'll be prosecuted. I'll accept that. I just need to... No, my daughter will be safe while I'm gone. The detectives pressed her with more questions, dates, methods, amounts. Every answer carved the weight of truth deeper into the room. You will face charges, Wilson confirmed at last. His tone grave. We'll need to coordinate with the Financial Crimes Division. As for Hazel custody, will be determined by the family court. Lydia hesitated. If my therapist provides a statement about my recovery, will the court take that into account? Wilson softened, just slightly. Yes, evidence of sobriety and rehabilitation can work in your favor. Relief flickered across her features, mingled with dread. When the police finally left, promising to return for a formal statement, Lydia turned toward Nick. His eyes were unreadable. A storm of anger, sorrow, and something else she couldn't quite name. Why didn't you tell me? He asked again, his voice quiet but cutting. Her shoulders sagged, because I thought, if you knew the whole truth, you wouldn't want me anymore. Nick shook his head slowly. Lydia, we've survived too much together for that. We fought our demons side by side. Did you really believe I'd walk away from you over something you did before we were married? I didn't know, she admitted, her voice cracking. I just couldn't bear the thought of losing you, or Hazel. Hazel tugged gently at her mother's hand, her small voice trembling. Mommy, are you going away? Lydia's throat tightened. She forced herself to meet her daughter's innocent eyes. Yes, sweetie, for a little while. A long time ago, I made a mistake, and now I have to make it right. Hazel's lip quivered. Will you come back? Of course, Lydia promised, gripping her daughter's hand firmly. And while I'm gone, you'll stay with Daddy Nick, Grandma and Grandpa. They'll take care of you. Hazel thought for a long moment before asking softly, what about the other man? Is he still my dad too? Lydia and Nick exchanged a glance, then Lydia chose her words carefully. Caleb is your biological father, yes. But Nick is your dad. In every way that really matters, he loves you. He's the one who takes care of you every day. Hazel seemed satisfied, her little body curling into Nick's chest. And in that moment, as Lydia watched her daughter safe in the arms of the man who truly loved her, something unexpected settled over her. Not despair, not shame, but peace. 4. The first time in years, Lydia had faced her past head-on. Whatever punishment awaited her, she would face it knowing she had done what was right. Love, she realized, wasn't about being flawless. It was about sacrifice. It's about honesty, even when the truth cut deep. It's about choosing your child's safety over your own freedom. And for the first time, Lydia felt worthy of Hazel's love, not because she had been perfect, but because she had finally found the courage to be honest, to take responsibility, to put her daughter above everything else. That she knew now was what it meant to be a mother.